Deep in the black void of the Mariana Trench, something drifted silently through the freezing water, and it didn't look like it belonged on this planet. During a routine descent, scientists captured footage of a creature that's been called one of the most alien-looking life forms ever recorded on Earth. It wasn't swimming, it was floating, perfectly still, glowing in the darkness like a jellyfish built by another civilization. With a crystal-clear bell-shaped body, and glowing red and yellow lights that pulsated inside like reactor energy, the creature almost seemed designed, not evolved. Its long tentacles stretched outward like they were scanning, searching. It wasn't blinking or darting around like most jellyfish. It hovered, calm and cold, as if it had already seen us coming. To this day, no one knows exactly how many of these exist in the trench. Some believe it's a species from the Crasota genus, but this one looked different. What makes it even stranger is the location. This glowing life form wasn't found in some open ocean. It was floating near a remote trench slope rarely explored by humans. And right after the footage was released, theories exploded. Some deep-sea researchers speculated it might be part of a new, undiscovered group of predators. Others, especially those with military backgrounds, quietly whispered about deep ocean surveillance. That this might not be just a jellyfish, that it could be something watching. Of course, that sounds crazy, until you remember that the Mariana Trench is the least explored place on the entire planet. Only a tiny fraction of it has ever been seen by humans. And in the parts we have filmed, we're already finding creatures that glow like light bulbs, float like machines, and move in ways that make no biological sense. Not everything in the Mariana Trench looks alive. Some things look wrong. In 2017, during a deep dive into one of the trench's darkest corridors, scientists captured footage of something floating along the seabed that sent chills through the entire mission control room. At first glance, it looked like a pale blob drifting aimlessly, but then the camera moved closer, and the team realized it had no face. What they found was a creature so bizarre, it hadn't been seen in over 100 years, the faceless cusk eel. No eyes, no mouth visible from the front, just a smooth, fleshy head with nothing but skin, like a ghost that forgot to finish forming. The mouth is actually hidden underneath, and its tiny sightless eyes are buried so deep in the skin, you can barely detect them. In the near-total darkness of the Mariana Trench, it doesn't need vision. It hunts by sensing vibrations in the water. That's how it moves. That's how it eats. The truly creepy part? This wasn't some one-off anomaly. The team found more than one, several of them drifting in silence near deep cracks in the trench wall. Experts say it could mean they've adapted to live in places where no other predators dare go, places with crushing pressure and almost zero life. But others aren't so sure. There are whispered rumors online about deep-sea cameras capturing things that looked like the faceless fish, but moved too fast or twisted in unnatural ways. Could this be a relic from a time before sight? A species untouched by evolution for millions of years? Or could it be part of something stranger, something we're not meant to find? There's a creature lurking in the darkest corners of the Mariana Trench that looks like it was built to terrify. With a body like a ribbon of muscle, a mouth lined with razor-edged teeth, and a tail that twists like a whip, this eel-like predator slips silently through the trench floor, hunting in a world where no light exists. It's long, it's fast, and it's nearly invisible until it's already too close. When it opens its mouth, it stretches far wider than its own head, like a trapdoor snapping shut. What scientists believe they found is part of a group of deep-sea eels that seem to break all the rules of biology. They're rarely seen, almost never caught, and when they are, they usually appear in distorted forms, as if the pressure of being brought to the surface damages them. The most unsettling feature? Their jaws. Massive gaping mouths designed to swallow prey larger than themselves, including other deep-sea fish. Some of these eels even glow at the tip of their tails, using a faint light to lure their victims in total blackness. During a descent near the trench's lower ridges, one of these predators was seen twisting through a debris cloud, its body almost serpent-like, with a movement that seemed more deliberate than instinctual. Marine biologists confirmed the find but couldn't explain why its body was nearly translucent, or how it was able to move with such precision at crushing depths. If there's one creature that looks like it crawled straight out of a deep-sea nightmare, it's this one. The black sea devil, Found near the Mariana Trench, this anglerfish is one of the scariest looking predators ever caught on film. With skin blacker than coal, rows of inward curving fangs, and a glowing lure dangling right in front of its face, this fish doesn't just hunt, it deceives. That little bioluminescent lure acts like a flashlight in the pitch dark. It waves gently, flickers, and then, snap! It's over before the prey even knows what hit it. The black sea devil isn't big. Most are less than 8 inches long, but what it lacks in size it makes up for in pure terror. It floats motionless in the water, completely still, with its glowing lure casting light into the void. Its mouth hangs open just enough to see the curved needle-like teeth, perfectly spaced to trap anything unlucky enough to wander in. When scientists first caught one on film in its natural habitat, they were stunned. No one had ever seen one alive at those depths before. But some researchers think there's more to this predator than we know. They've spotted larger shadows near the same depths, anglerfish-like but much bigger. Some believe there may be an undiscovered species lurking farther down the trench, a deeper dwelling version of the sea devil. And if that's true, we haven't seen the worst of it yet. Something strange happens the deeper you go. Creatures in the Mariana Trench don't just adapt to the crushing pressure. Many of them grow to absolutely massive sizes. It's called deep-sea gigantism, and scientists still aren't sure why it happens. Down in the trench, ordinary species have terrifyingly oversized cousins. Take the giant isopod, for example, a distant relative of the pill bug. But in the trench, this thing grows to the size of a house cat, with a segmented exoskeleton and alien-like eyes that reflect light like glass. It crawls across the ocean floor slowly, but with purpose, like it knows you're watching. One theory suggests that the lack of predators in the deep gives these creatures the time and space to grow. Another points to the cold temperatures slowing their metabolism, allowing them to live longer and get bigger. But some researchers think it's something else entirely. That deep-sea gigantism might be nature's way of hiding ancient DNA. Creatures that haven't changed for millions of years, quietly evolving into versions large enough to rival the top predators of prehistoric Earth. Every now and then, strange shapes appear on sonar scans in the lower trench zones, long, wide, with movements that don't match any known species. If one of these giants ever made it to the surface, it might look like this. A monstrous body, rows of jagged teeth, a head shaped like a reptile, but with the skin and fins of something built for the ocean. A terrifying mix of everything that shouldn't exist together. Like this image taken in a remote region near a river mouth, where locals claimed it washed ashore after a storm. Some say it was a fake. Others swear it was hauled from the deep by accident and quickly disappeared. We've only explored a tiny fraction of the Mariana Trench. If giant isopods are real, and they are, then who's to say there aren't even larger things hiding just out of reach? During one of the Mariana Trench's lesser-known deep-sea expeditions, researchers recorded something that shouldn't have been there. Not a creature, not a coral reef, but an object, partially buried, oddly shaped, and far too smooth to be natural. What little was shared described it as a metallic structure, roughly oval, embedded deep in the silt with only a portion visible. No sharp edges, no obvious damage, just a cold, reflective surface, sitting silently at a depth where pressure crushes nearly everything. That's where the speculation started. Was it a remnant of lost technology, a sunken military prototype, or something much older, and not from us? Some scientists have cautiously suggested it might be debris from early Cold War tests, but there are problems with that theory. No records show anything falling or being dropped in that area. Others believe it could be a natural formation that just looks artificial. But then there are the outliers, oceanographers and deep-sea theorists who claim it might be an ancient artifact, left behind by a civilization far older than ours. Something swallowed by the sea long before history began. A few theories go even deeper, literally. They suggest the object is only a fragment of something much larger, hidden beneath the trench floor. A structure, maybe even a chamber, buried under layers of mud and time. Some believe it's not just metal, it's engineered, not by modern hands but by something ancient, or something else entirely. In 1997, something happened in the southern Pacific Ocean that no one can fully explain. Deep beneath the waves, not far from the Mariana Trench, an underwater microphone picked up a sound so loud, so strange, that it shook the scientific community. It was low, rumbling, organic, and absolutely massive. Researchers at NOAA dubbed it the Bloop. At first, some thought it was ice shifting or a distant quake, but when they analyzed the frequency, It didn't match any geological event. It sounded like something alive. The bloop wasn't just loud. It was colossal. It echoed across thousands of miles of open ocean, louder than a blue whale, which is already the largest known animal on Earth. That's where the theories began. If it wasn't a whale and it wasn't tectonic activity, what else could produce that kind of sound? Some scientists still say it was ice cracking, others aren't convinced. Because the truth is, the ocean is filled with noises we can't explain, and this one came from a depth where almost nothing survives. Except the trench. Some researchers have pointed out that the bloop later came from near a part of the Mariana Trench. The idea that something huge, possibly bigger than any creature we've ever discovered, could be living that deep isn't entirely off the table. After all, we've explored more of the moon than we have of Earth's ocean floor. Over the years, the bloop has become the center of deep-sea conspiracy theories. Some believe it's the call of a massive trench-dwelling animal, something that only surfaces every few decades. A few even tie it to ancient legends. Sea monsters that sailors swore they heard before vanishing without a trace. There's even been speculation that governments picked up more sounds like it, and kept them classified. One thing's certain, the sound was real, and whatever made it was big. Very big. Down in the cold black depths of the Mariana Trench, where not even light dares to travel, lurks a creature that looks like it came from another dimension. It's called gigantism, and if you're thinking demonic deep-sea monster, with a built-in fishing rod growing out of its forehead, you're not far off. This predator is small in body, but its weapon? Unbelievable. A glowing lure, sometimes longer than its own body, whips through the dark like a living fishing pole. And this isn't for decoration, it's a trap. The gigantism doesn't chase its prey, it lies in wait. That massive bioluminescent lure pulses, flickers, and dances in the blackness like an underwater flame, drawing smaller fish and invertebrates closer. Until it strikes. Its jaw unhinges, and its needle-thin teeth snap down faster than the eye can track. And just like that, another unsuspecting creature disappears into the shadows. What makes it even creepier is that the lure can bend, flex, and even coil. Controlled by a fin ray muscle system scientists still don't fully understand. Some researchers believe this ability might allow the gigantism to mimic other life forms, worms, larvae, even flickering electrical signals, to confuse and attract different types of prey. If that's true, this fish isn't just hunting, it's pretending to be everything else in the trench. Despite how terrifying and advanced this creature seems, we've barely seen it in the wild. Most images come from remote sub-footage or preserved specimens brought up from incredible depths, and even then, many of them arrive damaged, stretched, or decomposed, as if whatever lives down there was never meant to surface. Meet ossidacs, better known as zombie worms. These bizarre tiny creatures live on death. When a whale carcass drops to the trench floor, zombie worms swarm it. No eyes, no mouth, no stomach. Just red, root-like bodies that bury themselves into bone and begin dissolving it from the inside out. They secrete acid to break down the bone and absorb the nutrients. It's not fast, it's not flashy, it's slow, silent, and deeply disturbing. They don't just feed on death, they thrive in it. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of them cover a single skeleton like a strange, swaying forest of red threads. From a distance it looks like the bones are growing hair, but get close and you'll see what it really is. A graveyard crawling with life that shouldn't exist. These worms live off rot in a place where most things can't survive. And they're not scavengers, they're specialists. Deep-sea engineers of decay. There are even theories that ossidacs worms could be cleaning up more than just whale bones. Some researchers wonder if they could break down larger, older remains, things we haven't seen in modern oceans. Prehistoric creatures, or worse, unclassified ones. Because in recent years, traces of DNA found near trench bone beds haven't always matched known species. It's rare, but it's enough to raise eyebrows. In a place like the Mariana Trench, even death isn't the end. Something's always waiting to feed. Quietly, patiently, without a trace. And zombie worms? They're not the biggest monsters down there, but they might be the ones with the longest reach. The drone's camera feed cut in and out, the pressure was nearly unmanageable. But then, something moved across the lens. Not a fish, not an eel. Something humanoid. Pale, hairless, and long-limbed, with skin like rubber and oversized dark eyes that didn't blink. The crew froze. For For a second, the creature seemed to notice the camera, then vanished into the black. The team assumed it was a glitch. They rewound the footage. It was still there. They never released the video officially. Only a handful of still frames made it out. Those were enough. Rumors exploded online. Some started calling it the deep stalker, a name that stuck. Others speculated it was an unknown deep-sea species, maybe even something that lived in the trench long before modern marine life ever existed. But there was another theory, one that spread like wildfire, that it wasn't an animal at all, but something intelligent. A few believe the deep stalker isn't just one creature but a small colony, possibly even a hidden species that's evolved far beyond what we think is possible in the deep. The theory goes that these beings could live within geothermal vents, using heat and minerals to survive, and may have developed completely differently from life on the surface. If something like the deep stalker exists in the trench, what else could be hiding in the rest of the ocean? Let's go beyond the Mariana Trench and dive into the strangest waters on Earth. After everything we've seen, creatures with balloon jaws, invisible calls, and living glass bodies, you'd think there's not much left that could still surprise us. And yet, the deep ocean keeps delivering. The deep-sea hatchetfish is a scary, small, silvery predator that lives in the ocean's twilight zone, and it's almost impossible to see. Its body is covered in mirror-like scales that reflect light in every direction, allowing it to vanish in plain sight. It doesn't just blend in. It manipulates light, adjusting its glow to match the dim surroundings. With oversized, forward-facing eyes and a thin, hatchet-shaped body, it looks less like a fish and more like a piece of deep-sea tech. Scientists still don't fully understand how it hides so perfectly, but one thing is clear, it's not just avoiding predators, it's avoiding something we haven't found yet, something deeper, something watching. And in that darkness, invisibility isn't just an advantage, it's the only way to survive. Tiny, translucent, and terrifying, Phronima doesn't just hunt, it takes over. This deep-sea amphipod finds soft, barrel-shaped creatures called salps, hollows them out from the inside, then moves in. It lives inside the body of its prey like a floating capsule, laying eggs and drifting through the water in what looks like a living glass pod. It's so strange it directly inspired the design of the creature in the movie Alien. But this thing is real. Filmed near the mid-Atlantic ridge, Phronima has huge hollow eyes and claw-like limbs that seem too advanced for something so small. Its translucent body almost vanishes in low light, making it nearly impossible to detect. Scientists believe it's a rare example of a deep-sea parasite that adapted not just to survive, but to wear its prey as armor. Caught on camera only a handful of times, the bigfin squid is one of the most alien creatures ever recorded in the deep. With a body just a few feet long and arms stretching up to 20 feet, it drifts through the darkness like a puppet on invisible strings. Its limbs hang straight down with strange elbow-like bends that no other squid has. When it moves, it doesn't swim like a typical cephalopod. It hovers, slow, silent, and disturbingly graceful. Scientists believe it uses its long arms to sweep the sea floor for food, but no one's ever seen it feed. First filmed by oil rig cameras and deep-sea ROVs near the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific, its presence is rare and haunting. No one knows how many there are, how deep they live, or why they're shaped this way. Some researchers quietly admit, this one gives them chills. It doesn't feel like an animal. It feels like a warning. They look harmless, almost cute, but sea pigs are some of the weirdest, most alien-looking creatures crawling across the seafloor. These soft-bodied echinoderms, related to sea cucumbers, live in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, sometimes over 16,000 feet down. They walk slowly across the mud using tube-like legs that inflate and deflate, giving them a floaty, unnatural gait. Some even use water pressure to raise and lower their bodies. But what really makes them strange is how they feed, by detecting the faintest traces of decaying matter, often miles apart. In large numbers, they resemble an army of pale, boneless insects marching across the abyss. Deep-sea ROVs have filmed them in swarms, crawling silently, undisturbed by the crushing pressure or freezing cold. Some researchers say sea pigs are a sign of death. They show up when something big has died nearby. In the deep, they're not predators. They're the cleanup crew. You wouldn't believe it unless you saw it. A fish with a completely transparent head. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, researchers captured footage of the barrel-eye fish, drifting motionless with its glowing green eyes aimed straight upward, locked on the silhouette of anything passing overhead. Inside its clear, dome-like head, you can see the entire brain structure and eye sockets, exposed, glowing, alive. Those barrel-shaped eyes aren't fixed either, they rotate. The fish can point them forward to track prey, then roll them back to scan for danger. It barely moves, hovering like a tiny submarine. Some believe it's adapted for a world where movement equals death, a spy designed by nature to survive total darkness. It's fragile, uncatchable, and incredibly rare. And even with direct footage, it still doesn't feel real. It's one of the clearest signs that the deep sea isn't just unknown, it's unbelievable. It moves like smoke and vanishes like a ghost. The giant phantom jellyfish is one of the rarest creatures ever seen in the ocean, with a bell that can reach over 3 feet wide and trailing arms stretching more than 30 feet. Its body is almost transparent, just a shadow floating through the abyss. First discovered in 1899, it has only been filmed alive a handful of times. It doesn't pulse like most jellyfish. It drifts. Slow, haunting, like it's being pulled by something unseen. Its long, flat oral arms hang in sheets, catching anything that touches them. Researchers believe it lives at depths of up to 22,000 feet, far below where light or sound travel well. There's no color, no face, no form, just a presence, a shape in the dark. And when it finally disappears from the camera's view, you're left wondering if it was ever really there at all. At the bottom of the ocean, where the Earth's crust cracks open and superheated liquid bursts into the sea, something impossible is alive. Giant tube worms, some over 8 feet tall, form colonies around hydrothermal vents, thriving in boiling toxic water that would kill almost anything else. There's no sunlight, no oxygen, just sulfur, heat, and pressure. And yet, these creatures flourish. They don't have mouths or digestive systems. Instead, they survive through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that feed on the vent's chemicals. It's life built from poison and fire. Some scientists believe this is where life on Earth may have begun, or where it still exists on other worlds under alien oceans. Watching these pale giants sway in the shadows of volcanic chimneys feels like peering into another planet's ecosystem. They don't just live in the deep, they own it. And they're proof that the ocean's strangest secrets are the ones that rewrite everything we thought we knew about life itself. Imagine you're diving deep beneath the waves, the ocean floor dark and silent, when suddenly, you see it. A perfectly intact Volkswagen Beetle just sitting there. No shipwreck, no road leading to it, nothing. Just a car, eerily out of place in the vast emptiness of the ocean. This isn't a movie scene, it's a real mystery. Off the coast of California, divers discovered a classic VW Beetle sitting upright on the seabed as if it had been parked there. The car looked surprisingly well preserved, with little damage despite the harsh, saltwater environment. No one could explain how it got there. There were no missing vehicle reports, no records of a sunken cargo ship carrying cars, and no signs of an accident nearby. It was just there. Some believe the car was dumped, perhaps pushed off a boat as some kind of prank or to hide something inside. Others say it could be from a sunken ferry or washed out by a flood. But there's no solid explanation. Now, one car in the ocean is strange, but what about an entire graveyard of sunken vehicles? Off the coast of Florida, divers have uncovered dozens of cars. They said their rusting frames stacked together like an underwater junkyard. Many of the vehicles were found in the Gulf of Mexico, some buried in sand, others sitting eerily upright as if still waiting for their owners to return. But these weren't simply lost in accidents or washed out by storms. Most were deliberately dumped. Why? That's the real question. Some theories suggest insurance fraud, owners sinking their cars to cash in on claims. Others believe it's the work of criminal organizations, using the ocean to dispose of stolen vehicles, weapons, or even bodies. That's where things get even darker. Some cars have been linked to missing persons cases. Imagine the eerie feeling of discovering a sunken car, only to find out it once belonged to someone who vanished without a trace. And here's where things get even weirder. Some of the vehicles were found in near-perfect condition, while others were completely stripped, almost like someone had taken what they needed before leaving the frame to rot. Theories range from mob activity to mysterious underwater currents that are shifting the vehicles in strange ways. But one thing is for sure, Florida's oceanic car graveyard is no accident. Whether it's a crime scene or something even stranger, these vehicles weren't meant to be found, and yet they keep turning up. Sunken ships and planes are common ocean discoveries, but what about trains? Off the coast of New Jersey, divers exploring the seafloor stumbled upon something completely unexpected. Two perfectly preserved steam locomotives resting deep beneath the Atlantic. No tracks, no wreckage, just massive iron engines sitting eerily in the silence of the deep. These aren't just any trains, they're rare 1850s Planet-class steam locomotives built before the Civil War. And here's the strangest part, no one knows how they got there. There are no records of a ship carrying them sinking, no reports of lost cargo, nothing. It's as if they just appeared on the ocean floor one day. The best guess? Historians believe the locomotives were being shipped across the Atlantic on a barge when a storm hit. Without a proper way to secure the heavy cargo, the engines may have simply slid off into the sea, vanishing into the depths where they remained undiscovered for over a century. But the mystery doesn't stop there. Unlike most sunken metal objects, these trains haven't completely rusted away. In fact, they're still in shockingly good condition. The ocean seems to have preserved them in an eerie, frozen-in-time state, almost like a ghostly tribute to a forgotten era of American industry. In 2011, a group of Swedish treasure hunters searching for shipwrecks in the Baltic Sea stumbled upon something that left scientists, and conspiracy theorists, scratching their heads. On their sonar scans appeared a huge circular structure, nearly 200 feet wide, resting at the bottom of the sea. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The shape was so precise, so unnatural, that some immediately compared it to the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. The Baltic Sea anomaly, as it came to be called, was found at a depth of about 300 feet, and its structure was unlike any known rock formation. It had right angles, sharp edges, and what appeared to be a long runway leading to it. When the dive team approached, they reported their electronic equipment malfunctioning. Was this just a coincidence, or was there something strange about this structure? Scientists remain skeptical. Some argue it's just a glacial deposit, while others suggest it's an ancient man-made structure, possibly from a civilization that existed before the last ice age. Then, there are those who refuse to let go of the UFO theory. Could this be a crashed spacecraft buried beneath layers of sediment? Or some unknown artifact from the past? Whatever the truth may be, the Baltic Sea anomaly remains one of the ocean's most perplexing mysteries. One that might never be fully explained. But not everything the ocean hides is as massive or as ancient. Some of its strangest phenomena are happening right now, forming in real time. And unlike the Baltic Sea anomaly, which remains motionless, these things are growing, stretching, reaching, almost alive. Deep beneath the frozen waters of the Arctic and Antarctic, a silent and deadly natural phenomenon is slowly forming, one that looks like something straight out of a science fiction movie. These are brinicles, also known as ice fingers of death. Unlike normal icicles which form above water, brinicles grow downward from the underside of sea ice, reaching toward the ocean floor like frozen tendrils, and anything that gets caught in their path, it doesn't stand a chance. Brinicles form when super cold, salty water leaks from the ice above. This heavy, brine-rich liquid sinks rapidly, freezing everything it touches in an instant. The result? A long, hollow tube of ice that snakes its way toward the seafloor. The process happens shockingly fast. Scientists have filmed brinicles growing several feet in just a few hours. What makes them even stranger is what happens when they reach the seabed. Any small marine life in their path, sea stars, urchins, fish, becomes instantly frozen in place, trapped in a sudden icy death. It's one of the few natural events where the ocean freezes from the bottom up, creating a kind of underwater graveyard. Divers who have witnessed brinicles forming describe them as hypnotizing, yet terrifying. They look like something alive, twisting as they grow, searching for their next victim. But while brinicles are a well-documented phenomenon, one thing remains unexplained. Why do some areas produce hundreds of them, while others remain untouched? The ocean has a way of creating things that seem almost too strange to be real, and brinicles are just one example. But sometimes what washes up from the deep is even more disturbing. Because what would you do if you found a single, perfectly intact giant eyeball staring back at you from the shore? Imagine walking along the beach when you spot something large, round, and staring right back at you. That's exactly what happened in Florida in 2012, when a beachgoer stumbled upon a massive, perfectly intact eyeball, about the size of a softball, washed up on shore. No body, no bones, just an eyeball. Experts were baffled. It was too big for most fish, too cleanly removed to be a natural injury, and too fresh to have been floating in the ocean for long. People immediately started speculating. Was it from a giant squid, a deep-sea monster, or something even weirder? Some even wondered if it could be a mutation or a piece of an unknown species lurking somewhere in the ocean's depths. Eventually, scientists identified it as belonging to a large swordfish, most likely removed by a fisherman. But the mystery didn't end there. How did it end up so far from open water? Why was it perfectly intact, with no decay? And why do strange body parts like this keep washing up on beaches around the world? Some believe the ocean delivers warnings, strange objects, bizarre creatures, and unexplained remains that hint at something lurking far below, beyond our reach. And while the giant eyeball mystery may have an explanation, there's another discovery in the ocean that doesn't just hint at history, it's a literal piece of space itself, buried beneath the Atlantic. When Apollo 11 made history by landing humans on the moon in 1969, it left behind more than footprints. The mission's F-1 rocket engines, which launched the spacecraft into orbit, detached and fell back to Earth, crashing deep into the Atlantic Ocean. For decades, they were thought to be lost forever. Then, in 2013, a team funded by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos made an unbelievable discovery: the remains of the engines, buried under miles of ocean, perfectly preserved in the darkness. Finding them was no easy task. The wreckage was sitting more than 14,000 feet below the surface, deeper than even the Titanic. Using advanced sonar technology, the team located twisted, burnt remains of the massive rocket engines scattered across the ocean floor. But the real shock was the level of detail still visible. You could still see the serial numbers on some parts. Why does this matter? These engines helped launch the first humans to another world. They represent one of humanity's greatest achievements, and yet, they ended up forgotten at the bottom of the ocean. A reminder of how quickly history can disappear beneath the waves. The engines were recovered and partially restored, but the ocean still holds more secrets. If something as monumental as pieces of the moon landing can be lost for decades, what else is down there, waiting to be found? Maybe something even older, something we weren't supposed to find at all. Off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, divers exploring the seafloor came across something almost impossible to believe. A massive, step-like stone structure with precise 90-degree angles, terraces, and even what looks like a staircase. It looked more like a man-made pyramid than a natural rock formation. But here's the catch: it's underwater, nearly 85 feet beneath the surface. The Yonaguni monument has been at the center of a heated debate for years. Some geologists say it's just a natural rock formation, shaped by thousands of years of ocean currents. But others argue the structure is too precise, too symmetrical to be random. If that's true, it could mean one thing: this is a lost city, drowned by rising seas thousands of years ago. Even stranger, divers have reported what look like carved symbols on the monument, as well as what appear to be roads and walls extending beyond the main structure. Could this be proof of an ancient civilization that existed before recorded history? Some even link it to the legendary lost city of Mu, Japan's version of Atlantis. Whether it's a natural wonder or the ruins of something long forgotten, the Yonaguni monument remains one of the most mysterious underwater formations in the world. And it's not the only city swallowed by the sea. For centuries, Heracleion was just a myth, an ancient Egyptian city mentioned in historical texts, but never actually found. That changed in 2000, when a team of marine archaeologists discovered massive ruins off the coast of Egypt, buried beneath layers of sand and silt. They had found Heracleion, a city lost to the ocean for over 1,200 years. What makes Heracleion so incredible is how well preserved it is. Massive statues of Egyptian gods, entire temples, and even ships loaded with gold and treasure were found perfectly intact. It was a bustling trading hub, filled with merchants from Greece and Egypt, until it was suddenly swallowed by the sea. Scientists believe an earthquake or rising sea levels caused the city to sink into the Mediterranean. But some mysteries remain. Why did it disappear so completely from history? Why were some artifacts in near-perfect condition despite being underwater for over a millennium? Some even believe Heracleion's collapse wasn't entirely natural. Could something more have been at play? Like Atlantis, this city was once thought to be nothing but legend. But Heracleion is very real, and if this mythical city existed, what other lost civilizations could still be waiting to be uncovered beneath the waves? Deep in the Pacific, hidden beneath the blue waters of Truk Lagoon, now Truk Lagoon, lies one of the most haunting underwater graveyards in the world. Dozens of sunken warships, tanks, and aircraft sit untouched on the ocean floor, a silent reminder of one of World War II's most devastating battles. In 1944, the US launched a surprise attack on Japan's biggest naval base in the Pacific. The battle lasted 3 days, sinking over 60 Japanese warships and 250 aircraft. Some ships sank so quickly, entire crews went down with them, their remains still resting inside. Today, the wrecks remain eerily intact, covered in coral, marine life, and even unexploded ammunition. Inside the sunken ships, divers have found abandoned helmets, gas masks, torpedoes, and even human bones, untouched for nearly 80 years. The eerie sight has given the lagoon a chilling reputation. Some divers report hearing ghostly noises, seeing shadowy figures moving inside the wrecks, and even feeling an invisible presence. While Truk Lagoon has become a famous dive site, it remains a giant underwater war memorial, a place where time stopped in an instant. These ships were meant to rule the Pacific, but instead they now belong to the deep, forever frozen in history, beneath the waves. Imagine diving into a deep, still cenote in Mexico. The water crystal clear, sunlight filtering through the surface. Everything looks normal, until you reach about 100 feet down. Suddenly, a river appears, complete with flowing currents, misty banks, and even fallen tree branches. But here's the eerie part. This river isn't made of fresh water. It's a thick, ghostly layer of hydrogen sulfide, completely separate from the water above, moving as if it's an actual river beneath the surface. This phenomenon happens when salt water and hydrogen sulfide mix, creating a dense, surreal-looking layer that sits at the bottom of the cenote, perfectly mimicking a river. It even has a shoreline, giving divers the chilling illusion of floating over an entirely different world. Some describe the experience as otherworldly, like entering a place untouched by time, where the laws of nature seem to work differently. But Cenote Angelita isn't the only strange pattern forming underwater. Elsewhere, nature is creating perfect geometric shapes on the ocean floor, and the mystery behind them took years to solve. For years, divers in Japan noticed intricate circular patterns forming in the sand at the bottom of the ocean. They looked exactly like the mysterious crop circles seen on land, perfectly symmetrical, decorated with small ridges, and stretching up to 7 feet across. With no immediate explanation, theories ran wild. Was it a deep-sea current, a natural ocean phenomenon, or something extraterrestrial? Then, the real answer surfaced, and it was even stranger than the theories. The artist behind these formations was a tiny, unassuming pufferfish. Scientists observed male pufferfish working tirelessly for days on end, using only their fins to carve out these elaborate circular nests in the sand. The purpose? To attract a mate. The more precise and symmetrical the design, the better the chances of luring in a female. This bizarre behavior had gone undiscovered for years, proving that even in the modern age, the ocean is still full of secrets. But sometimes, the things we find aren't just mysterious, they're worth a fortune. And in one of the world's most legendary shipwrecks, treasure worth billions still sits at the bottom of the sea. In 1708, the San Jose, a massive Spanish galleon, set sail carrying what would become the most valuable sunken treasure in history. Loaded with gold, silver, and emeralds, it was on its way from South America to Spain, until it was ambushed by British warships. The San Jose exploded in a fiery blast, sinking with 600 crew members and an unimaginable fortune. For over 300 years, its final resting place remained a mystery. Then, in 2015, the wreck was finally found off the coast of Colombia, resting at the bottom of the Caribbean. And what was inside? Over $17 billion worth of treasure, a staggering amount untouched for centuries. Cannons, chests overflowing with gold, and mountains of silver coins still lay scattered across the seafloor. But here's the catch: the treasure has never been recovered. A massive legal battle erupted between Colombia, Spain, and private salvage companies, all claiming ownership of the legendary ship. As a result, the San Jose still sits right where it sank, its gold and jewels waiting untouched, hidden beneath centuries of sand. It's proof that the ocean is still hiding some of the greatest lost fortunes in history. And if the San Jose can remain undiscovered for 3 centuries, who knows what else might still be out there, waiting to be found. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, 10,000 feet below the surface, rests the shattered remains of the USS Scorpion, one of the most mysterious submarine disasters in history. Officially, the nuclear-powered attack submarine sank in 1968 due to an unexplained malfunction, but many believe there's far more to the story. The USS Scorpion was returning from a classified mission when it suddenly went silent. There was no distress signal, no warning, just disappearance. When search teams finally located the wreckage months later, they found the submarine's remains scattered across the ocean floor, its hull strangely twisted and torn apart. The official explanation? A faulty torpedo exploded inside the vessel. But that's where things get strange. Some experts argue the damage doesn't match an internal explosion. It looks more like something attacked the submarine from the outside. Was it an enemy vessel, a Cold War cover-up, or something even more mysterious lurking in the deep? And then there's the eerie part. Before its disappearance, the USS Scorpion reportedly sent a cryptic message to Naval Command, warning that it was being followed. Followed by what? A foreign submarine? A secret weapon? Some believe unidentified submerged objects, unexplained craft moving at impossible speeds underwater, could be responsible. To this day, no one knows the full truth, but whatever happened to the USS Scorpion, it wasn't an accident. And its wreckage still sits there, deep in the Atlantic, holding on to secrets that may never surface. One of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time is tied directly to the ocean. In 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 vanished mid-flight, cutting off communication without a single distress signal. Despite one of the largest search efforts in history, the plane was simply gone, until pieces of wreckage started washing up years later. In 2015, the first confirmed debris appeared, a wing fragment called a flaperon, found on Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. Over the years, more pieces were discovered off the coast of Africa and on remote islands, giving investigators only partial clues as to what happened. But the main fuselage, black boxes and majority of the wreck remain missing. Some believe the plane's final resting place is deep in the Indian Ocean, hidden beyond reach. Others suggest something more mysterious. Was it hijacked? Did it crash somewhere unknown? Without the main wreckage, the full truth remains buried beneath the waves. But while the ocean hides secrets of the past, it also shelters creatures so strange they feel almost unreal. Deep in the pitch-black depths of the ocean, there are creatures that look like they belong on another planet. One of the most bizarre is the bright pink see-through Fantasia, a bioluminescent sea cucumber that glows in the dark and appears completely transparent. Found near the Celebes Sea, this surreal-looking animal drifts through the water like a floating alien jelly. Unlike most sea cucumbers, which crawl along the ocean floor, this one swims, using tiny fins to propel itself through the deep. Its internal organs are clearly visible, glowing faintly as it moves. Scientists first captured footage of it in 2010, and since then, it's become one of the most fascinating deep-sea discoveries ever recorded. How many more creatures like this are out there? The ocean is a breeding ground for the unknown, and if the bright pink see-through Fantasia can exist, what else might be lurking in the depths, still waiting to be found? Just off the coast of Bimini, in the Bahamas, lies a strange underwater formation that has fueled one of the greatest mysteries in archaeology. Known as Bimini Road, this site consists of a long, straight path of massive rectangular stone slabs, sitting just 20 feet beneath the surface. It looks shockingly man-made, as if it was once part of an ancient sunken city, and some believe it could be proof of Atlantis itself. The stones are arranged in a near-perfect linear formation, extending for nearly half a mile. Some researchers argue they are just naturally formed limestone blocks, shaped by ocean currents. But others point to strange carvings, sharp 90-degree angles, and the way the stones seem to be stacked, suggesting they may have been intentionally placed by an ancient civilization. Adding to the mystery, the legend of Atlantis describes a great city that was swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago. Could Bimini Road be a remnant of that lost world? Or is it just an unusual geological formation that happens to look like something more? To this day, no one can say for sure. In 1901, Sponge divers off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, discovered something truly baffling: a 2,000-year-old device buried in a shipwreck. At first, it looked like a corroded lump of bronze, but when examined closely, it revealed intricate gears, dials, and inscriptions. It was an ancient analog computer, centuries ahead of its time. The Antikythera mechanism could predict eclipses, track planetary movements, and even calculate Olympic Games dates. But how did ancient Greeks build something so advanced? Some believe it was knowledge lost to time, while others suggest an unknown civilization influenced its design. Even today, scientists can't fully explain how such complex technology existed in 100 BCE. Deep in the darkness of the Atlantic, among the wreckage of one of history's greatest maritime tragedies, researchers recently stumbled upon something astonishing: a perfectly preserved bronze statuette, eerily reminiscent of the famous Diana of Versailles. This artifact, a miniature sculpture of the Roman goddess of the hunt, lay buried beneath layers of sediment, shielded from corrosive saltwater by a strange pocket of debris. Experts believe this statuette was a luxury item, possibly a gift or a prized possession of a wealthy passenger. What makes it truly remarkable is its condition. Unlike other metallic artifacts that corroded over time, this piece remains almost untouched, its fine details still crisp. Some speculate that the unique mix of cold temperatures, pressure, and a chemical reaction from the ship's metal created an environment that slowed deterioration. But here's where it gets even stranger. The statuette wasn't listed on any known cargo manifest or passenger inventory. It simply appeared, as if waiting to be discovered. Could it have been smuggled on board? Was it lost before the disaster and somehow ended up among the wreckage? No one knows for sure. The eerie preservation of the artifact has led some to theorize that there may be other hidden pockets in the Titanic, preserving lost relics of the past in ways we never imagined. Just when researchers thought they had cataloged every type of personal artifact from the Titanic, they came across something that left them stunned: an ancient Megalodon tooth, but not just any tooth. This massive fossil, estimated to be millions of years old, had been carefully set into a gold frame and fashioned into a necklace. The idea that such a relic was on board raises more questions than answers. Who owned it? Was it a rare collector's item? Or did it hold some deeper meaning, perhaps a belief in its power or a connection to the mysterious deep? More intriguing is how the necklace survived it all. Unlike gold, which resists corrosion, fossilized teeth from long-extinct predators are porous and fragile. Yet this one remained intact, protected by the very shipwreck that doomed its owner. Even stranger, no records mention a passenger bringing such an object aboard, leading some to wonder if it was an unlisted treasure, a smuggled artifact, or even a hidden gift. The image of someone on the Titanic, proudly wearing a relic from a prehistoric monster of the sea, is both eerie and fascinating. And speaking of objects frozen in time, another discovery has left scientists with an unsettling reminder of the exact moment the great ship met its fate. A rust-covered pocket watch, its delicate hands forever frozen at 2:18 a.m., was found nestled beneath a twisted section of the Titanic's hull. Unlike many other timepieces recovered over the years, this one was found at a spot that matches precisely with survivor testimonies of when the ship made its final descent beneath the waves. Its placement suggests it may have belonged to a passenger who held onto it until the very end, a heartbreaking reminder of those last chaotic moments. The watch's glass face was shattered, likely from impact, yet the mechanism inside remained visible, stopped at the exact minute history recorded as the ship's final breath. This discovery isn't just another artifact, it's a timestamp of a tragedy, a piece of history encased in rust and salt. What's even more chilling is the condition of the watch's chain. Unlike most metals which have corroded over the decades, the links remain surprisingly well preserved, as if shielding their lost owner's last moments from time itself. And time, as it turns out, has preserved yet another remarkable relic: a bronze cherub that once illuminated the heart of Titanic's grandeur. Among the most breathtaking finds in the recent Titanic expedition was a bronze cherub, one of the ornate statues that once lined the ship's iconic grand staircase. For decades, this piece of Titanic's elegance was thought to have been lost forever. Yet there it was, resting beneath layers of debris, its once polished surface now encrusted with deep-sea growth. The cherub, likely dislodged during the ship's violent descent, is one of the few decorative artifacts from the grand staircase ever recovered. What makes it so significant isn't just its rarity, but what it represents: the opulence of Titanic's design, now frozen in time at the bottom of the Atlantic. Unlike wooden artifacts that rotted away long ago, the bronze statue, though tarnished, still holds its form. Even stranger, experts noted that the cherub's right hand, once outstretched to hold a glowing lamp, was missing. Some speculate it may still lie somewhere nearby, waiting to be uncovered. But while the cherub was a symbol of Titanic's splendor, another newly explored section of the wreck reveals a more personal, almost haunting glimpse into the life of the ship's captain. In a hidden corner of the wreck, buried beneath collapsed walls and twisted metal, researchers uncovered an astonishingly well-preserved relic: Captain Edward Smith's private bathtub. The discovery was both eerie and intimate, offering a rare, unfiltered look into the personal space of the man who commanded the Titanic. The tub, once part of the captain's lavish quarters, had somehow remained recognizable despite more than a century underwater. The porcelain was cracked and heavily rusted, but its shape was intact. What fascinated experts the most was the way the sea had claimed it. Strange, ghostly formations of rusticles now drape over the edges like frozen waterfalls, making it look almost otherworldly. Standing before this relic, it's impossible not to imagine the moments before the disaster, when Smith may have stood in that very room, contemplating his final voyage. And in an ironic twist, deep-sea technology, the very thing that helped locate his bathtub, also led to an unexpected find. One belonging not to Titanic's original voyage, but to those who first tried to uncover its secrets. As cameras scanned the ocean floor for lost artifacts, something unexpected came into view: an old mechanical robotic arm, detached and half buried in the sediment. Unlike the ship's remains, this piece of equipment wasn't from 1912, but rather from one of the earliest expeditions to explore Titanic's wreck. The robotic arm was part of a submersible used in the 1980s and 90s, back when technology was first allowing humans to see Titanic's ruins up close. It was likely lost during an attempt to retrieve artifacts or navigate the wreck's tight corridors. What makes this find so unusual is how time has treated it. Unlike Titanic's rust-covered relics, the arm remains relatively intact, its joints and metal plating still visible under the layers of marine growth. In a way, it's a relic of two eras: the tragedy of 1912 and the decades-long quest to uncover its secrets. As modern explorers continue to search, they not only uncover Titanic's past, but also remnants of their own history, left behind in the deep. But this discovery raises another question. If forgotten expedition equipment can be found decades later, what else might still be hidden beneath Titanic's ruins? Among the countless scattered remnants of the Titanic, one discovery stood out for its eerie sense of presence: a perfectly preserved porthole window, still intact, its thick glass remarkably almost unbroken after more than a century beneath the crushing pressure of the Atlantic depths. This find isn't just another piece of wreckage, it's a silent witness to the tragedy, a literal window into the past. What makes this discovery so remarkable is how rare it is. Most portholes that have been found before were either shattered or corroded beyond recognition. This one, however, remained sealed, its brass fittings encrusted with deep-sea deposits but otherwise well-preserved. Some speculate that it may have belonged to a first-class cabin, possibly one with a direct view of the night sky as the ship sank. There's something deeply unsettling about looking through that same glass today, knowing that someone, in their final moments, may have done the same, gazing out at the vast ocean, watching the cold, dark waters rise. What remains of the Titanic today is a haunting shell of what was once the grandest ship ever built. Over a century beneath the crushing pressure of the Atlantic, the wreck has been claimed by time, its once pristine steel structure now crumbling into the abyss. The bow, once instantly recognizable, is collapsing inward, while the stern, which broke apart during the sinking, has become an unrecognizable tangle of twisted metal. The grand staircase, where first-class passengers once strolled in elegance, has long since vanished, leaving behind only traces of its former glory. Recent deep-sea scans and 3D mapping have revealed just how much the Titanic has deteriorated in the past few decades. Rusticles, strange icicle-like formations created by deep-sea bacteria, are eating away at the ship's remains, converting its iron into fine, rust-colored dust. Some experts estimate that entire sections of the wreck could vanish within the next few decades, collapsing into the seafloor under their own weight. The latest expeditions have even captured footage of areas where entire walls have caved in, structures have disappeared, and once solid decks have become fragile, paper-thin layers of rust. What's most shocking is that this process is accelerating. While the Titanic sat relatively stable for much of the 20th century, recent studies suggest that its decay has sped up dramatically in the past 2 decades. Some scientists now predict that within 20 to 30 years, much of the wreck will be unrecognizable, reduced to little more than scattered debris. The Titanic is not just sinking, it is dissolving, erasing itself from history with every passing year. And yet, despite this decay, the wreck remains one of the most mesmerizing sights in the deep ocean. Its presence is a powerful reminder of a moment frozen in time, a ship that set sail in triumph but now rests in silence, slowly disappearing into the dark. The Titanic is vanishing, but its story will never fade. The Titanic is slowly disappearing, but its legacy is stronger than ever. Beyond the wreckage, the ship's history is filled with fascinating facts, engineering feats, overlooked details, and incredible luxuries. Now, let's explore the Titanic beyond the ocean floor. Before it became the most famous shipwreck in history, the Titanic was an engineering triumph. Built in Belfast, Ireland by the Harland and Wolff shipyard, it was one of the largest moving objects ever created, stretching 882 feet in length and weighing over 46,000 tons. At the time, its sheer scale was astonishing, longer than the tallest buildings of its era and nearly the length of 3 football fields. Engineers used over 3 million rivets to hold its steel plates together, and the ship was powered by massive steam engines capable of generating 46,000 horsepower. But what truly set the Titanic apart wasn't just its size. It was designed with cutting-edge technology, including a double-bottomed hull and 16 watertight compartments, meant to keep it afloat even if multiple sections were breached. Ironically, this same design led to its downfall. When the iceberg tore open 5 compartments, the ship's own weight dragged it down. Still, for its time, the Titanic was a floating masterpiece, a ship built for comfort as much as capability, and that comfort extended to luxuries rarely seen at sea, including something that few passengers had ever experienced before: a swimming pool on a moving vessel. At a time when most ships prioritized practicality over leisure, the Titanic dared to offer luxuries that were unheard of, including an onboard swimming pool. Located on the ship's F deck, the pool was exclusive to first-class passengers and filled with seawater, heated to a comfortable temperature. For many, this was an entirely new experience. Indoor swimming pools were still a rarity on land, let alone on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic. What made the Titanic's pool so unique wasn't just its existence, but how advanced it was for the time. It had tiled walls, steps leading into the water, and even changing rooms. The entrance fee? Just a shilling, roughly the price of a loaf of bread at the time. Today, nearly every cruise ship features a pool, but back then, this was a privilege only the wealthiest could enjoy. And while the pool was a sign of luxury, it wasn't the only place on board where passengers could focus on their health. Just a deck above, the Titanic featured another rarity, its own fully equipped gym. In an era when most people had never even seen a gym, the Titanic had one of the most advanced fitness centers of its time. Located on the boat deck, the gymnasium offered state-of-the-art exercise equipment, including stationary bikes, rowing machines, and even an early version of an electric treadmill. For passengers who wanted to stay active, this was a groundbreaking feature. Exercise was just beginning to gain popularity, and the idea of working out for leisure rather than necessity was still new. The gym wasn't just for fitness, it was a social space, often filled with first-class passengers dressed in elegant athletic wear, chatting as they cycled or lifted weights. There was even a mechanical camel and horse machine, designed to simulate horseback riding for those who missed their equestrian workouts. And if that wasn't enough, passengers could also take advantage of another wellness feature rarely seen on ships: the Titanic's luxurious Turkish baths. The Titanic didn't just provide a gym for exercise, it also offered a lavish way to relax afterward. The ship featured an elaborate Turkish bath complex, something that even many luxury hotels of the time didn't have. This exclusive space, located on F deck, was designed in a Moorish style, complete with intricate tiling, marble benches, and multiple heated rooms. For first-class passengers, this was the pinnacle of relaxation. They could move from a steam-filled hot room to a warm room before cooling off in the plunge pool. It was a feature inspired by the grand bathhouses of the Ottoman Empire, offering a level of indulgence unheard of on most ships. Even the Titanic's wealthiest guests were impressed. After all, few people had access to such amenities, even on land. These luxuries showcased just how ahead of its time the Titanic was. It wasn't just a ship, it was a floating palace, designed to rival the finest hotels of the world. But while the first-class passengers enjoyed its many comforts, the Titanic was also home to an entirely different world, one that had its own fascinating details hidden below deck. The Titanic wasn't just a passenger liner, it was also an official mail carrier for the British Royal Mail, giving it the title RMS Titanic or Royal Mail Ship. This designation meant that the ship carried thousands of letters and parcels, processed by a dedicated team of 5 postal clerks, including both American and British staff. They worked in a specially designed mailroom on the ship's G-deck, sorting letters by hand as Titanic made its way across the Atlantic. The scale of the operation was impressive. Titanic transported over 3,400 sacks of mail, amounting to 7 million pieces of correspondence. The clerks worked tirelessly, often for long hours in a windowless, cramped space, ensuring that letters reached their destinations efficiently. Tragically, as the ship sank, the postal workers attempted to save as much mail as possible, seen dragging heavy mail bags toward the upper decks in a futile effort. None of them survived, and their sacrifice remains one of the lesser-known but incredible stories of dedication aboard the Titanic. But letters weren't the only form of media on the ship. Titanic even had its own daily newspaper, a unique feature that set it apart from most other ocean liners of the time. In an era long before Wi-Fi and television, Titanic passengers had an unusual luxury: access to daily news, printed right on the ship. The Atlantic Daily Bulletin was the Titanic's very own onboard newspaper, published each day with the latest headlines, stock market updates, horse racing results, and even first-class menu highlights. The newspaper was printed in the ship's Marconi room, where wireless operators received news updates via telegraph. These snippets of information were then compiled into the bulletin and displayed throughout the ship, giving passengers a small but important connection to the outside world. It was an impressive innovation for the time, considering that real-time news updates were unheard of during long ocean voyages. The fact that Titanic passengers could read about the stock market's performance while sailing in the middle of the Atlantic was a luxury very few people had experienced before. While first-class travelers skimmed the newspaper over morning coffee, the ship's kitchens were busy preparing gourmet meals for its wealthiest passengers. And the last meal ever served on the Titanic has since become a haunting symbol of the extravagance that ended so tragically. The final dinner served to first-class passengers on the Titanic is a fascinating look at the sheer opulence of the ship. Hours before disaster struck, the ship's wealthiest guests sat down to a 10-course meal, an elaborate feast that included oysters, poached salmon, filet mignon, roast duck, and cold asparagus vinaigrette. The meal was topped off with desserts like peach compote, chocolate eclairs, and a selection of fine cheeses. What makes this meal so striking is the contrast. It was a scene of elegance, laughter, and indulgence, just moments before tragedy unfolded. Passengers enjoyed fine wines, listened to the orchestra play, and had no idea that within hours, the very world they knew would be turned upside down. The menu itself has been preserved, with surviving copies found in the pockets of passengers who made it onto lifeboats. Today, these menus are among the most valuable Titanic artifacts, offering a glimpse into the final moments of luxury before the chaos of the sinking. And that chaos might have played out very differently, had an important safety drill not been cancelled the very same day the Titanic hit the iceberg. Sunday, April 14, 1912, was supposed to include a mandatory lifeboat drill, a routine practice that would have familiarized both passengers and crew with the ship's emergency procedures. But for reasons that remain unclear, the drill was cancelled by Captain Edward Smith, Some historians speculate that he believed the ship's design made such drills unnecessary. Others think he may have wanted to avoid disturbing passengers enjoying their Sunday at sea. This cancellation turned out to be a fatal mistake. When the Titanic struck the iceberg that night, confusion spread quickly. Many passengers had no idea where to go, how lifeboats operated, or even how serious the situation was. The lack of preparedness resulted in lifeboats being launched half-empty, despite there not being enough for everyone on board. Had the drill been conducted as planned, it's possible that more people would have survived. Passengers might have been quicker to act, lifeboats could have been filled to capacity, and the chaotic evacuation could have been more organized. It remains one of the greatest what-ifs in the Titanic story, one small decision that might have changed the course of history. Amid the grandeur of the Titanic, one small but often overlooked crew member had a job just as important as any human on board, a cat named Jenny. Like many ships of the time, the Titanic had an official ship's cat, tasked with keeping the rodent population under control. Jenny was a working cat, likely brought on board from the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, where she had previously lived aboard the Titanic's sister ship, Olympic. Jenny quickly made herself at home, reportedly living near the kitchens, where the warmth of the ovens made for a cozy resting spot. Some crew members considered her a lucky charm, a common superstition among sailors who believed that having a cat aboard would bring good fortune. Others simply appreciated her presence as she hunted mice and rats that could damage food supplies. What happened to Jenny remains a mystery. Some stories claim she sensed disaster and disembarked in Southampton before Titanic set off on its maiden voyage. Others say she was seen on board up until the very end, curled up in a quiet corner of the ship. No official records confirm her fate, but like so many others aboard, Jenny became part of the Titanic's tragic legend. The sinking of the Titanic was more than just a tragedy. It became a turning point in maritime safety. Before the disaster, many ships were dangerously underprepared for emergencies, operating under outdated regulations that failed to consider the increasing size and capacity of modern ocean liners. The Titanic's loss exposed these flaws in the worst possible way, leading to sweeping changes in maritime law that still shape the rules of sea travel today. One of the most significant changes was the requirement for lifeboats. Before Titanic, ships weren't obligated to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. Titanic itself had only 20 lifeboats, enough for about 1,178 people, despite carrying over 2,200 passengers and crew. After the disaster, new laws required that ships have enough lifeboat space for every single person on board. Another major reform was the continuous operation of wireless radios. On the Titanic, the Marconi wireless operators were overwhelmed with personal telegrams from first-class passengers, meaning important safety messages, including iceberg warnings, weren't always prioritized. After the disaster, 24-hour radio watch became mandatory, ensuring that distress signals would never go unheard again. The Titanic also led to the creation of the International Ice Patrol, a monitoring service that still exists today, tracking icebergs in the North Atlantic to prevent future disasters. These regulations, born from tragedy, have saved countless lives. Today, every cruise ship, cargo vessel, and passenger liner follows protocols shaped by the lessons of the Titanic. And while the ship itself may be vanishing, its legacy endures, not just in history books, but in the very laws that keep modern passengers safe at sea. That's about it. Write in the comments which fact about the Titanic impressed you the most. For more useful information, watch other videos.